thrives when it comes to traditional Warzone at times, but here on Resurgence, I think everybody's aggressive. And when you're aggressive and everybody else is aggressive, it kind of just throws everything to the wayside. And then you insert a lot of variables, and Aydan's crew ends up dropping early, which is tough to see. I mean, they're not even in top 10, but they were in top 10. They were in 8th place specifically after game number 1. But the threshold right now is 24 points. Can they pass 24 points to pass up Destroy and Go? Maybe they can. But let's start off with Swagg, see what he's up to. I mentioned last game they improved quite a bit. What can they do now? They're going to Zoo.
We've seen these players, specifically Swagg, have a lot of success in those close quarters engagements when we're looking back towards the cemetery, I think, well, 2 weeks ago. But even in situations like this, all right, so we're going to Zoo first. Always about just trying to get Kid out early on, but I do wonder, like, do they try to stay a little bit more central to zone now? If they're able to read it ahead of time and understand the rotation quickly, do we see them hunker up like other teams have done, or do they stay out in front of this thing? This is a very big game number 3 for this trio specifically. They need to start making up some of that ground as other teams continue to put up points. Just looking for a top 6 finish. I think that would be a good start.
I think so. Top 6 finish would definitely be fruitful. I want to say they got 8th place or around there in the last game. Just continual improvements. And Zoo, maybe he's been their area consistently. I don't know. I think this is a roster that's changed up where they've landed quite a bit. I think Zoo might be a little bit newer for them, if I'm not mistaken, because I want to say they were a bit more centralized before. They would land over by Market, Police Station. It wasn't working, and they've switched it up a lot. So maybe Zoo is the reason why it's things have been a little bit better. And as the ping on the minimap goes, everybody is kind of far away from them, so they've got some distance to travel. So it's a softer landing, but it means they can get kitted up a bit more effectively and now push in a controlled way.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. Like when you're out of contention for a lot of gunfights to start early on, you're focused on kitting up and getting your resources to eventually take the fights in the mid game. That's it. They just need to get their resources, and that's why they're on the roam. As we jump back over to a different POV, of course, it's Super Evan finding one, getting going early. Nice job by him just to get the first break on the board. Hardest points to get are always the first. He'll find himself an elimination. But to start, also the danger that we've seen other players run into when they have this kind of strat looking like Smixy and company. When you start off on the outskirts and you get lit up quickly from other teams, you can fall very quickly. Like, you can lose your numbers and get punched out of the play way too fast than you would expect. So it's situations like this, get your kits early, get those resources, but be aware that you're not going to be able to get upfield for free. You're going to run into a couple of squads waiting to pick you off at range, so they have to be careful.
I want to see how these guys go about getting up to those rooftops, because they found themselves on low ground and they're consistently losing one another. We just saw Super Evan bring back Z Colors. Z Colors is now down once again, and a large reason for that is because of them being out in the open. So now you're using vital utility like your smokes, which you want to constantly replenish if you can, because smokes are great for getting away, for disengaging, for rotating, and they've used quite a bit for very little gain as far as I'm concerned. They're kind of still in the same position, and you're taking these awkward fights of the players on the rooftops where you might get a knock, but you're surely not going to be able to get a finish. So what's the game plan here? You can't stay here.
You can't, but what are your options right now other than the long trek through the middle of the map, right? Like, you're going to have to make a move together. If one player goes down, it's not the end of the world. But isolating some of these challenges will be the tough part. Like, where do you draw your attention? Already getting tagged up from the opposite side. I do wonder if any teams will overcommit and try to take down Swagg here. Like, is it really worth it? I don't think so, especially with very little time left to do it. But one of those instances where it's just like, you know what? Everybody hold your spot. There's really no need to overextend here, but I don't think you're in the worst spot at the moment if you're Swagg, Evan, and Z Colors. Like, it could be worse.
I guess it could be worse. You could be out.
That is true.
Luckily, but they do get pushed, which I'm very surprised at. I don't know if that was a player from the rooftop who decided to push down, but it looks like they have lost one. Z Colors is going to get rezzed. Those res guns are great to have in your back pocket if you can have them, especially if we get to a hill off, which we just literally never see. But I'm still holding out. I hope we do get one, because it would be so fun
really
to see how that
close
plays out.
We got really close.
Got very close.
Oh, it's so close.
Very close. Aydan wanted to do it, but he forgot that he had a self-res in his inventory. If he would have remembered to have that self-res and actually equip it, we might have had to hill off. But they are getting pushed. Swagg spots a player.
And he's locked right now. I don't think he has said a word in 2 minutes. And when he's locked, when Swagg is dialed, scary player. Do not want to run into him. But on the other side, Z Colors will fall. Super Evan underneath. All right, they're splitting their numbers. I'm surprised Super Evan was lagging behind just a bit. He's regrouping with Swagg. Thought he might try to take the reach out with Z Colors, but all right, great shots from him. Cronin, disgusting as always, never going to change. Gets one tag. And they'll try to stun out for the reposition, but through the back, great cleanup and help.
And they've lost players, but you know what? They've managed to find themselves in the driver's seat by the end of the fight, which is always a great thing. You know, they take that pressure head on, and they just funnel it so well. We've now lost at least one trio, maybe two trios. No, we've lost two trios at this point. So players are going to continue to drop off. Still 47 players in the lobby. It's a healthy lobby, which means a lot more eliminations that they can pick up. Loadout drops galore all around them. The zoo drops seemed to be a bit slow at first, and it was, but things are starting to heat up a little bit. Now, the question, Space, I have for you, when do you start rotating in to establish yourself within the next zone? Because they've got some distance to travel.
Better now than late, which is probably pretty soon, because the worst thing you want to do is be the very last team rotating in. Then you have to fight not only for altitude, for high ground, against trios with maybe better equipment around them, but you become a target the longer you wait. I would say within the next 20 or so seconds, start making that move. But again, these players are professionals. I can barely hit my shots, so there's a reason they're in this spot.
Me both.
Yeah, no, they got it. I'm not worried about them at all. But of course, it's the conversation's about they need to get into placements. They need to start fighting for some of those top 6 placements. So it starts to weigh on them that, all right, are we making the right rotational decision now or later? However, we jump back over. I believe we're on Intex's POV. Sean J Gaming and Company believe Intex, all 3 of them, trying to work through slowly as they have 2 eliminations on the board. It seems like this trio has come to a crawl.
Sean J and them ran into Smixy's roster in that game number 2, that water fight that we were witnessing. And they try to better themselves in this moment, which they do. That's going to be a good elimination come out from Intex. And they'll go ahead and dip onto the inside. Kind of separated from his roster, I do see player 1 starting to rotate in, so he's now going to have some help with Believe. So you got Intex and Believe, which has been a duo for some time. They know each other quite well. So which means they're going to be able to make some magnificent moves depending on who they end up pushing. But convince someone's in this area, and I haven't seen anyone just yet. But maybe they'll find somebody. And there we go. We are going to have some pings. So yeah, they know where people are at.
I think Intex took down Iceman Isaac. Again, it's not going to...
I think it was, yeah.
Yeah, it's not going to be too much of a detriment right now. But again, it's just gives us an idea of where these players are positioning, where other teams are moving. So if Isaac's leading the charge, of course, you know the rest of his group is not far behind. And maybe this is the trio they're trying to take for the moment. Wars, dangerous as ever, will get cut down. You can hear the call for 2 more over to flanked, as they will work underneath. And this is a position this trio knows quite well. They know that we've seen them rotate through these spots before, even back into week 2 when they had to make that late, like game 5, game 6 rotation when they were caught out, getting tagged from every single angle. Just did enough to stay alive, but not enough to win the game. In these close quarters engagements, very tough trio to bring down. Track does fall. Split numbers, and how far away, for the moment, flanked is from the rest of his group. That is a bit worrisome.
It is a bit worrisome, and his high alert was going off just a little bit earlier, so there's a guy, or maybe a couple, that's in this vicinity, and he is snaking hard, convinced someone's coming down those stairs. And I don't know if he'll get so lucky, maybe up, maybe down. Either way, he's got his head on a swivel for sure. He's watching all his angles, and maybe he's going to run into somebody. But meanwhile, we switch over to our week 1, 2, and 3 winners. Now on your screen is Biffle. Back on the ground they go through the smoke. Biffle gets a drop, and Sage is going to get the finish. That's Louis Sium being eliminated, and on to the next one we go. They literally just chase red dots. That's kind of their objective.
I think the good thing for all the lobby is, for the moment, Biffle only has 1 elimination, and you got 37 players up, including the trio. Fire Cell still active. Zone about half a minute away. And you can hear him say, we got to start working in the zone. They have to start making that move. So now comes the time where the pendulum swings the other way for a lot of our trios. We're all right. Now you got to start making your move towards the zone. Rotation begins on your screen currently. Natasha working through the water. And you can hear the trio trying to work together to regroup back up, have their strength in a stack, and escape with their lives. They do so.
Wow, barely though. Natasha took quite a bit of damage. She'll use those valuable plates. Still sitting pretty. Zepti down. He was the first one to go up the stairs. So Natasha's going to pump the brake. She's not going to head up there just yet. She'll wait for her teammate. Meanwhile, back on board with Miapo. Actually, for the first time, I think, in game number 3, Hisoka crew currently in first place. We mentioned how being in first finally gives them that line of sight to win today, to win $10,000 to finally get first place. They've had second place in week 1 and week 2. They fell off in week 3. They're looking to better their chances in week number 4, and I think they can absolutely do so. They've got a great line of sight. And the zone collapses in. Resurgence is disabled in space. They've got a piece of this rooftop, so they're in a great spot.
Yeah, but what scares me most is one wrong peek. Like, you hang up here a little bit too long, you get tagged, you start getting hit with a flurry of nades, and then all of a sudden somebody feels a little bit over-aggressive, and they just push up from behind. So I think this is why we're seeing the reposition to start. You had Skullface working from the back just to clear that side. And now you can spread your numbers out, trust your teammates to win their gunfights individually. This is a big position to be in for Hisoka and company. Like, this is prime time. Rack up the eliminations, rack up the multiplier. You already got 7.
I know.
For Miapo. Like, all you need, really, like, realistic for the trio to have, like, a really good game 3 if they get top 3. Like, 15 elims is, like, a benchmark. They're already on their way. If they can do that, they're golden.
Abwiz is going to drop. This would be FIFA Kill's roster. FIFA Kill not playing today. We'll see how well they can do. They've done a decent job so far with Rios and co. Back on board with Huskerrs, though, who Saltify and Dongi. And Huskerrs is not wanting to drop down just yet. He's going to have to move, though. This rooftop, unfortunately, is not going to be within the safe zone, so eventually he's got to move in, which is going to be scary. It's never easy to fly into a smaller zone with 14 trios remaining, 36 players on the map, and only a small area to go to, and there's a lot of open space in front of them. I believe there's a gas station that they can go to, but that's not a lot of coverage, so you kind of want to move a little bit deeper in. Luckily, I think he could just kind of glide relatively far, but then again, do you want to leave Saltify? Because now Saltify is kind of by himself, and Dongi's already gone, so this is a tough spot for Huskerrs. We're going to get to see the veteran at work.
The only positive right now is that there are cars on the road for cover. That's it. You got 2 different lanes of highway and a 1 gas station to work as cover. You better hope the other teams like invest in the util. If it's extra smokes, use that to your advantage. 2 nades will flush, but it will not clean up the kill. Now you got to go. This is your best chance. Keep the high ground if you can. Nicely done. Huskerrs knows what he has to do. It's just about executing.
Said watching the veteran at work. Tough spot to be in for anybody. For Huskerrs, though, it's clinical. He's been here before. He's been battling these guys down low for some time. And I think he just now finally got a drop onto 1. That's King AJ that he gets down. King AJ, a talented slayer in his own right. Huskerrs finished off, and I believe only 1 more teammate remains, and that's going to be Saltify, who now has to try and carry the torch.
COD timing at its worst. I think he did everything right, but he dropped down the street. I was expecting him just to hit the next rooftop on the gas station and keep his at altitude, because at least you get the smoke to bait the attention. Then you use off the rooftop, don't drop down too quickly, move through the smoke, get on your way. But this is a tough spot to be in. And I would not expect this player to not challenge. Like, you absolutely fly into that gunfight. You take down the player when he's weak. Nicely done. And back over to TBE. Almond finds at least 1, has an extra ping. Here comes a streak. Mortar Strike will do enough to get players moving out of the zone, but you've siphoned him off into a kill box, and this is a perfect spot to be in.
I was laughing because that was Hold That who got that elimination, and that is Zyro. Zyro changed his name to Hold That, which he's clearly feeling himself, and he is in top 10 for what it's worth. He was top 10 after game 1, top 10 after game 2. He just dropped out a bit, but he's having a much better week than he's had in the past, and I always expect a lot out of Zyro. And I'm sure one of these weeks he's going to excel, which is what I expect him to do. Noobs, though, locked in as he typically is. Plenty of plates to work with. This zone, though, Space, has to be the ugliest zone we have seen yet.
Yeah, this is not at all ideal for anybody. But I think the only takeaway is that, like, you have the bridge for cover here. Like, this is a very good spot to be in. Ammo will be a problem. But for Noobs and Almond and DJ Moss, of course, filling in for Tommy, like, they can just sit at range. They don't have to push into the water. unless they run out of ammo, which, God forbid, you don't want that to happen. But
Especially where they're at.
Yeah, I mean, talk about frustration across the board. This zone is very wonky.
Like I'm in San Francisco, next to the Golden Gate Bridge, out overlooking Alcatraz Island. That's literally the only place out there. How do you get away? You got to swim it, and that's exactly what Hisoka is looking to do. Again, a late game performance from this roster. They continue to excel, and who knows where they can go. I mean, Hisoka gets another finish, goes for the Elim. He'll get that. That's on Zepti. So now you bring it down to the top 4 trios remaining. 9 players in the lobby. He's sitting at 7 Elims. Under the bridge, not a bad place to be.
Nope. It's just placements. That's it. You're literally just playing for multiplier. They've done all the work. 7 eliminations, not including what the rest of the team has. Hisoka is just playing for the end game. I don't think we're going to see the heal off, but this is a beautiful late game stretch. As you currently see, Almond on your screen, cleaning up all the stragglers in the water. This team's not going to move for any reason. It's going to come down to Hisoka. Can he be sneaky enough to get top 2, then try to take a 1v3? 6 players alive. But hold on, Noobs falls. And he's
but he's back in. Yep.
Oh,
Love those
fine.
flares, man. Those flares are great. You always want to have some if you can, especially towards end game. And it's always so defeating because you take that one and it's like, yes, we're going for more placement points. Then he's back in. Okay, let's do it again, right? So 3 trios still up. Make that 2, as Hisoka is finally going to be finished off, and the final few remaining players look to be at their wits' end as the win will come through. Only 11 eliminations, but that is, still the big thing is that's back-to-back wins, which doesn't happen too often.
Yeah, it's interesting because 11 is not a lot, but again, multiplier helps, and back-to-back alleviates some of that deficit. So you're looking in total at, 28 elims? Back-to-back wins, that helps. Of course, game 1 was 27 elims from Shadowwag and company. So you get 1 more than the first place finish, but you get 2 first place to boot, plus the multiplier. So, not ideal, but the most you could make out of it. 11 elims, look, you get 11, 11 is 11, but I'm just saying,